Okay. I'm sure most of you learned in your government indoctrination public schools, and I learned when I was in school, not in government school, but still in indoctrination camp, that there was plate tectonics, whatever. And I had no reason to doubt that. But I was at a conference, a homeschool conference, just a few months ago. I gave the keynote talk there on some things, and I ran into a very interesting individual who said, no, plate tectonics is not really what happened. And he introduced me to this thing called the hydroplate theory. And it was so fascinating. I watched a few videos about it, and I don't know enough to know whether it's correct or not, but I know enough to know that this ought to be heard. In fact, this, to me at least, makes just as much sense, if not more, as the plate tectonics theory, and it seems to be pretty in line with the evidence and with what the Bible teaches.
I put up 10 grand and Walt put up 10 grand. And I had two cashier's check, mine and Walt's, there on Saturday morning at the State University of New York at Newport. And then for nobody to show up, boy, I was livid. I'm saying, you do all this talking and stuff outside of the ring, but when somebody wants to engage you, you won't even show up. I mean, man, I was fighting, man.
Walt kind of pulled together a lot of different things in his theory. He addresses in his book and in his other work biology and genetics and all the geophysics and the cosmology and ties it all in together with the Bible. And a lot of it has really amazing amounts of analysis and data to back it up. Many predictions that came true or have yet to come true, but still might. And he's just an amazing man, and I think God really worked through him to bring a lot of truth into people's lives.
Okay.
The early chapters of this book cover all things related to creation, evidence against evolution, and that's where I found it the best resource initially. And this was, at the time, it was my favorite creation book, and this is before I even cared about the hydroplate theory.
Us as Christians, we have a unique ability here on earth, and that unique ability is obviously to reveal who God is. And so I think, Walt Brown, I think he did his job in revealing who God is, and I want to thank him for that.
Walt Brown got blackballed a long time ago, back in the 90s. One geologist plagiarized Dr. Brown's work, and the mediator determined that the geologist was supposed to set the record straight. I was shocked at how horribly mistreated Dr. Brown was, and how unrepentant, unapologetic, unchristian these bigwigs were, these creation ministry bigwigs were. I mean, it just blew me away. I mean, it just shattered. I want to do a shout out to Randy Galusa, the current CEO of the Institute for Creation Research, because he invited me to present comets and asteroids from the hydroplate theory perspective at their headquarters in Dallas. ICR. And he started out by saying, we're here today to correct an injustice.
Okay.
I was asked to teach a Sunday school class on creation versus evolution. Walt Brown literally called into our church. I could read the questions to him. He could answer on the phone, and everybody in the audience could hear it.
Wow.
And that was phenomenal that he was willing to do that. And he answered so many hard questions that people had back then. Well, that Sunday school class ended, and I never really thought much about it until the church asked me literally the next year, would I do it again? And the class had grown to over 200 people that first time.
Robert Dietz, he was one of the co-authors of the plate tectonics theory.
Right. He coined the term seafloor spreading.
So they developed this working relationship, and it just wasn't in the classroom because Dietz knew that Walt was working on a competing theory. Every Wednesday afternoon, they would get together for several hours and discuss their theories. The time that Walt spent with Robert Dietz is a huge wake-up call to these geologists that are trying to marginalize Walt's knowledge of geology.
There was one guy, kind of a prominent scientist, with one of the big three, who was telling a lady, "Oh, you don't want to believe the hydroplate theory," and she was devastated. And she said, "Why?" And he goes, "Oh no, there's all kinds of problems." Well, what problems? It's just full of problems. You just don't want to believe. There's nothing. There was never anything specific. Oh, Walt is out in left field. Oh, he's a lone wolf, and yeah, no credible scientist agrees with him. It's just these dumb little insinuations like that have no basis in anything.
As he's going through this, all these allegations and false information, and yet he never, from what I can tell, he never, he didn't call them names, and he
never.
didn't.
No,
How
I never saw any reciprocal nastiness at all. He would sometimes smile and say, "Oh well, it's to be expected," or whatever. I don't know. Just you probably had more experience with that kind of thing, Bill, with his responses.
It's just a real example that God gave to me for grace under fire.
Yeah,
and be able to just take the flaming arrows that are thrown at him from both the evolutionists and some creationists as well, and to be able to keep soldiering on.
Okay.
But I found that the kids were enthralled by the ideas. They just loved it. What does it look like? What do you guys think happened here? And they looked at it a little bit, and one kid said, "It looks like somebody took a giant fist and just punched like that."
Oh, sure.
And I went, yes, that's exactly what we think happened, except the punch came from below, not above.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really insightful.
They did not see 3I Atlas until it was between the orbit of Jupiter and Saturn, which is about 5 to 6 AU. There are bodies orbiting the sun that are at 83 AU, and that's still in the solar system. So you can't say that something is a proof of an interstellar object unless you see it coming in from greater than what the solar system is.
And every time you hear Dr. Brown on video or whatever, it's like he's so very calm.
Yeah.
He knows. I mean, you only receive that kind of calmness when you know you're right. And with Dr. Brown, not only does he say, "Hey, this is the way it probably happened," boom, here's the evidence, and here's the data, and here's the references. And especially when he sits there and he shows all the other theories.
Yeah.
And he shows, okay, which one is strong in this area on this topic?
Oh, yeah.
Which one is weak? It's just amazing to me.
Okay.
We show a video clip of him, Horrors of the Flood, at the museum. And that just a short, concise thing that, gives people an idea of what his theory is about. And, again, when we talk about his theory, it lines up with Scripture. And that's what's neat is when the Bible talks about the foundations or the great deep breaking open, that's a vital thing for people to understand. And it gives a good visual.
This explanation of the flood needs to be more out there. I think it should be the mainstream view because it explains so much logically, like scientifically, theologically. Eventually, as I delved deeper into listening to the explanation of the hydroplate theory by Brian Nichol, once I started listening to that, and I was just listening to like every single step, all the science, I had to even go into chemistry to understand everything he was explaining. That's when I was just 100% convinced of this.
He tried to figure out, what is this about? This makes so much sense. It agrees with the Bible, it agrees with physics. Why are these big creation organizations not excited to embrace a theory that can equip us, especially our students going to school, with arguments against evolution and even, in the Christian church community, arguments to get, well, there was no global flood and that sort of thing. Where we are today is just a lot of resistance to the hydroplate theory because, one, it's such a paradigm shift, and then also some things that were said about him personally that were untrue, that damaged his reputation and caused people to turn away from his work, unfortunately. But as I talked to them, I really had a hard time getting to discuss to even some of the more basic technical issues, like why subduction can't happen.
Right.
Because of the strength of granite and what happens under pressures and how it really, you can't slide granite. You can't, a simple force diagram shows that doesn't happen. And people that I talked to, just their eyes would just glaze over. So I started pulling up top geology schools and I looked at the coursework. What do you have to study to take? And I was shocked at how little real hard science there is in those curriculum.
Really?
A lot of observational stuff, a lot of stuff around minerals and dirt and stuff like that. Not a lot of physics, chemistry, strength of materials, energy, fluid flow, things that you kind of need to know about if you're going to study something so dynamic and catastrophic as a global flood. They don't study those things.
Yeah, let's try that hydroplate protocol again. We will be going through the confirmed predictions and the other predictions, and then we're going to wind up with the Bible verses again. But there's 58 predictions that Walt has made, and these are the ones that were sent to me. Those were the old ones. These were sent to me. These are, I believe, are going to be in the new book. Okay, and now this is what Fred McNabb did. You know, he took them and he did some more research.
Okay. We collaborate with others. We form a team. And when you bring together a team and more people that can think differently, you get more skills from other people. Target social media, news, and then make articles, and then any public talks that you can think of. Hydroplate theory should be taught at churches. And the main reason why is because we need to educate the parents. Content for kids, because they're the next generation. They're learning. They're like a sponge. They can retain information better than even you and I could. Practical application. They would be good to have like articles and things out there for people to come across.
I would say two big problems that all of us have to deal with here. One is temporal snobbery. We think that these people in the past were primitive, therefore God had to come up with a myth for them, which is nonsense. The other one is credentialism. Just because somebody is a priest, bishop, has a doctorate, or is a scientist, that means nothing unless you have a data set to back up your claim. All these others that claim that the earth is old, they have no data really to bolster that. The majority view is old earth because because our theologians have hijacked, and the intellectuals hijacked the narrative. You have seminarians trained in that nonsense, and then they become clergy, bishops, and onward. And we're fighting to get it back to the truth.
Bill did a 16 weeks course over the hydroplate theory and some other creationist content. And so that really opened my eyes and really was very valuable for me. And I know all the people that attended from our church.
One thing was really encouraging for me for this week of celebration is I became aware of people that I had never heard before.
Yeah.
That are really carrying Walt's work out into the world.
What if the major geological structures of Earth, its mountains, ocean basins, canyons, and fossils, could be explained by a single catastrophic event? What if one theory could tie them all together? In this documentary, we explore the hydroplate theory, the idea that before the flood, a massive ocean was trapped beneath Earth's crust, sealed beneath a thick layer of rock, and compressed under unimaginable pressure. According to this model, the day the crust finally ruptured along a global fault line, the subcrustal ocean didn't just leak out, it erupted. Water blasted upward through the cracks in colossal walls of water and superheated vapor, shooting with such force that much of it actually exceeded Earth's escape velocity. These violent jets, called the fountains of the deep, tore apart the crust, releasing the pressure that held the continents stable. As the water escaped, the crust fractured into enormous blocks, or hydroplates, which began sliding across a lubricated, water-rich base. Their rapid movement reshaped the entire planet. Mountains rising from compressional collisions, ocean basins forming where plates sank, and vast sediment layers burying organisms across entire continents. The hydroplate theory proposes that Earth's defining features were not carved slowly over millions of years, but in a short, catastrophic sequence triggered by the planet's own internal structure. This film will examine how such an event could occur, whether the evidence matches the theory, and why this model challenges the traditional timeline of Earth's history.